Welcome back to Pickleball Journey. Today we are giving an in-depth analysis on the backhand drive.
Make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're giving you 4 great in-depth tips. You're not going to want to miss any of the information. My name's Elisha.
I'm Justin.
Let's get into it.
All right, so we're getting right into the first tip for that backhand drive. So I'm going to talk about body position to start. First of all, what I want to make sure I'm doing when I'm hitting a backhand drive is I don't want to worry so much about where the paddle's going, but I want to focus on my turn, so the turn of my shoulders. That's going to get my paddle where I need it to go. So right away, I turn my shoulders and look where my paddle is. It's back in position. So that's the first thing to think about with body position. The second thing I want to think about is my transfer of weight.
Yeah.
I want it always going forward, so get that body, the shoulder rotation, and then make sure I'm transferring my weight forward.
Yep.
I'm going to hit a couple of these here. Elisha's going to talk through them as I hit.
Turning his shoulders and then turning them back. Turning his shoulders, turning back, and see how his weight's moving forward as he does that. Perfect.
Nice. Notice one other thing, my body position. Each time I hit that, a lot of times I've got my right foot out in front, I'm coming through, and then my finish is up high here towards my other shoulder.
Yep. And as we go into these tips, and the future tips, make sure that you're applying these things not only to your backhand drive, but also your forehand drive. All these tips are applicable to both forehand and backhand drive.
Yep.
All right, so for our second tip, we're gonna talk about the lag progression. Okay, when Justin gets in his position, his body position like we talked about before, he's got the shoulders turned, he's got his hips turned, his body's completely turned, and now he's gonna move forward. We're gonna talk about four different body parts that are gonna be lagging along. The first thing that's gonna turn is his hips, and then his shoulders, then his elbows, and then his wrists, okay? So make sure that you're not swinging your arms before, say, your shoulders come through, right? So this is how it's gonna look. So he's getting in his body position. His hips are gonna move forward first. So as you can see, he's gonna extend his hips. You see this movement here. Once he starts to extend his hips, now his shoulders are gonna start to move forward. Once he extends his shoulders, then his arm is going to extend. And once he extends his arms, then his wrists are going to extend through, okay? And one element that you can know that your elbow is bent is making sure when you're in the back position, this elbow is bent. And then your wrists are also back, where the butt cap of the paddle is actually forward, all the way through your motion until we get to the ball, and then we extend through, okay? So we're looking for the hips first, then the shoulders, then the extension of the elbow, then the wrist as we snap through. If we get a lag progression, so everything is lagging along in that progression, then we're gonna get a really solid, whippy snap to our backhand drive, okay? It's as if I was swinging like a long, thin piece of wood. If I swung it as hard as I could, you would be able to see the flex in it, and then it would snap at the end after I've extended everything through the power of that swing, okay? So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna toss about 3 or drop 3 of them to Justin, and you're gonna see this lag progression. All right, here we go. Nice, 1, 2, and 3. 3 perfect backhands. All right, so before we get into our third tip, if you guys could hit that like button, we'd really appreciate it, and even leave a comment below. So for our third tip, we're gonna talk about the plane of motion of our swing. So Justin already has a great plane of motion, and we're going to kind of throw a graph out. If we have kind of the X, right, or the X I should say is horizontal, the Y plane is vertical, okay? We're looking for the paddle starting when we get in our body position. Let's get Justin in our body position. When he comes through, the paddle is gonna start below kind of that X plane. Then he's gonna come up to the middle, and then that's where he's gonna hit the ball, and then he's gonna finish higher in the X plane, more vertical towards the Y. So we're looking for both driving horizontally and vertically, a combination, not just vertical and not just horizontal, right? Because we want to get through the ball as well as we want to create topspin by creating a vertical motion as well. So I'm gonna toss it.
I like to think of it as like kind of moving up a slight incline.
That's perfect.
Just moving up a,
Yep.
you know, a ramp that's very slightly inclined.
Yep. And with paddles, I mean, we have a tennis background, so we're used to strings. We can get a little bit more vertical because it grabs the ball with the strings. But with these paddles, you know, they do a good job at grabbing the ball because of the technology that has improved, but still not as much. So you're gonna wanna put a little bit more horizontal motion into it than vertical, but we still wanna get a little bit of vertical with it because we still wanna create some of that topspin. All right, so I'm gonna toss a few and we're gonna get a camera angle on the side just to show that plane of motion. Here we go. So just 1, good, 2, and 3. Good, we'll get one more. Good. So again, yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, those first two I missed in the net, and I was doing exactly what you said not to do.
Yep.
Don't want to go too horizontal with it. Sometimes I find myself, if I am missing in the net, I'm not brushing up high enough.
Yep.
So especially when you're out hitting drives, make little adjustments to either hit it a little bit higher, a little bit lower, by either raising it up a little bit or going a little bit more horizontal.
That's great advice from Justin. Always notice what you're doing and never make the same 2 mistakes in a row, right? Keep adjusting until you feel like you got it, right? So nothing is set in stone. If you feel like, okay, something's a little off, make those adjustments and experiment and see what works. But make sure that you're not starting too low below the level of the ball. We have the ball here. We're starting maybe a paddle length below the level of the ball. We come to contact and we finish a paddle length higher than the level of the ball. So it's a lot of horizontal, a little bit of vertical, and now we're gonna get topspin and we're gonna get drive through the ball.
Yep, love it. Are you in pursuit for the best paddle?
Get engaged with Engage.
See the description for 20% discount. All right, so now we're talking about, for the last thing here, is the paddle face. So 2 things actually we want to focus on. We want to have our head down as we're hitting the ball, but then as we're looking at the ball, as we're looking at the face of our paddle, I've got it lined up here. I'd call this vertical. This is I'm going to refer to as open, and this referred to as closed. So most of the time when you're hitting a backhand drive, you want that paddle face slightly open. The harder that you hit, the more you close it a little bit.
Yep.
So if I'm hitting some really hard drives here, I'm gonna have the paddle face a little more vertical, meaning a little more closed. If I'm gonna hit it a little softer speed, I'm gonna lay that paddle face open a little bit more so that that ball is coming off that paddle and coming a little bit higher.
Yep. And know your speed, right? Like if you're hitting as hard as Justin, maybe around 40 miles per hour, experiment with a little bit, close it, open it. But remember, it expounds the farther it goes away, right? So, you know, 1 centimeter more open might be extramental like height, like maybe 3 feet versus 2 feet with 1 centimeter of open. So when we talk about open and closed, it's not like, okay, boom like this and boom like that. It's very small increments. So when you're experimenting with your shot and your backhand drive, make sure that you're starting a little open, and if it's going out, right, close it a little bit. And if it's going in the net, open it a little bit and experiment.
Just minor adjustments.
Yep, minor adjustments.